What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We are back at it here on PFF. They have defensive grades for the Seahawks as well. And based on the way that game went, I think you guys know that the results are going to be very, very good here. We are going to see some really, really strong numbers because the defense was so good. Like, that's just within expectations, I think. So, we're going to have a lot of positive things to say about this stuff here. So, let's take a look at what we got, starting with just the grades themselves. Julian Love, highest graded player on the defense by far, which makes sense. He played a very good game. He had 10 tackles, only one missed tackle according to PFF. And he also had the interception. A lot of his tackles were close to the line of scrimmage. I don't think he gave up very much in coverage. You can see his run defense grade was over a 90, as was his coverage grade. So some very, very impressive reps here. And then you get down into the guys who played great games, not necessarily elite games, like Devin Witherspoon with the 85.3. No missed tackles there on 5 total tackles, according to PFF, and 2 quarterback pressures. We'll talk more about pressure stuff a little bit later, but Witherspoon was disrupting the quarterback. Woolen, obviously, going to come in here with the strong 83.8 with the really good coverage and the interception that he made. He did miss a tackle. He did get dinged on his tackling and run defense, but we shouldn't expect Woolen to ever be really good at that stuff. We should just expect him to be hopefully a little bit better. Jerome Baker graded out really well, an 80. Tackling dinged him a little bit. According to this, he actually missed 2 tackles. I don't remember him missing 2 tackles. And I want to talk about that real quick because according to PFF, the Seahawks missed 11 tackles in this game. Rayshawn was the big culprit with 3, and then you had Jerome Baker with 2. I don't remember 11 missed tackles in that game by the Seahawks. And that's 69 plays, so that is an average of 1 missed tackle every 6 plays, slightly more than 6 plays. Like, that's what must have happened is PFF gave a bunch of missed tackles out for plays where the tackle was made like half a yard after the initial tackle miss, where it doesn't even really feel like a missed tackle because their presence caused the tackle to happen right after. You know, it's one of those things where you've got 3 guys rallying to the ball. Maybe one guy technically misses, but it has no real meaningful effect on the play. So I don't agree with that, but they're probably doing some, letter of the rule versus spirit of the rule thing with tackling, which, okay, that's PFF for you. That's what they're going to do. But yeah, Jerome Baker, really good graded despite that, especially coverage. And I think both of our linebackers played excellent games in coverage, and that's going to be a big, big positive influence this year. Leonard Williams graded out great, even though he also missed a tackle and got a terrible tackling grade. His pass rush grade was on point, and the main reason why he's up here. 6 total pressures. Again, it's PFF numbers. I don't take them that seriously, but it's still a remarkable performance by him. He was certainly disruptive, was everything we wanted from him when we got him, including 5 quarterback hits. He was putting Bo Nix on his butt over and over and over and over again. Rayshawn Jenkins got dinged for his tackling, which, again, I don't know if I agree with, but that's what they have. They had 3 missed tackles, which, again, man, I wasn't unhappy with his tackling at all in this game. I just think it's plays where you don't really notice it because the play doesn't go anywhere anyway, but his coverage grade was on point, and that's the main reason why he was graded out well. Tyrell Dodson, run defense grade, very poor. I'm gonna have to ask questions about that one. That doesn't line up with what I saw out there at all. His coverage grade was the main reason why it was so high, but he missed 1 tackle on 7 total tackles. That shouldn't be anything that murders his grade to this degree. Kayvon Wallace also had a terrible tackling grade. Like, these are the kinds of tackling grades I would have expected last year with that defense that missed more tackles than any other defense. Not the defense I saw yesterday, but I mean, I guess he missed 1 tackle, and when you only play a handful of snaps, which Kayvon Wallace did, 12 snaps total, that kills you, but I don't know, that doesn't line up with what I saw out there. So the coverage by Kayvon Wallace is the main thing that boosts his grade, as well as the forced fumble. Boye Mafe, 9 QB pressures. Boye Mafe had 9 QB pressures, and again, they're PFF numbers, I get it. That is remarkable no matter how you slice it. That is a pressure on almost 25% of his pass rush opportunities, probably like 22%, 9 out of 39. Really, really impressive. He did miss one tackle. That's the only reason why this isn't higher, but I would certainly have given him higher for this. This is remarkable. Mike Morris had a QB pressure and also had the 72 PFF grade. Small sample size, but good stuff. Byron Murphy breaks his NFL virginity with a pretty good game, 70.5. Didn't miss any tackles, and that's the stuff with Byron Murphy that I wonder about. I don't think he's a great tackler, but so far so good. He had one, so I mean, a lot of people pointed this out in the Twitch stream last night. Byron Murphy was getting double teamed a lot, so he's not going to put up big stats, but what he is going to do is have a big impact. Derek Hall, well graded, 4 pressures, 1 sack, 2 QB hits, so maybe a little bit better than I even initially thought. I thought he played well, but this is actually a really good grade. Even Draymond, man, look at Draymond go. Look at Draymond with a 65.4. I think we'd all be okay with Draymond Jones if he could play at that level. And I'm going to have to take a deeper look at some of the Draymond numbers later this week, but that's a good start on the surface. Even Trey Brown, and guys, Trey Brown's going to get picked on a little bit this year because he is easier to pick on than Woolen or Witherspoon. Just be ready for it. That doesn't change the fact that Trey Brown's a good player. He got a above average grade in this game, good tackling grade, which is good for him. And at the end of the day, I think that Trey Brown is still a very important part of this defense. And then, and only then, at the very bottom here, do you get down to some guys that had average or below average grades. Kobe, Bryan, and Gibson don't really count because they didn't play enough. Jaron Reed and Jonathan Hankins were the 2 guys who got graded poorly. And that surprises me a little bit on the Hankins front. I thought Hankins played pretty well. I didn't have a problem with what he did. There were a couple of big runs by Denver's defense, but offense, but most of those big mostly that was just the Bo Nix run at the end of the game, which wasn't on the defensive line at all. Reed, I kind of get. He was pretty quiet, but I don't know. Hankins, that one surprises me a little bit. So real quick, looking at the pass rush stuff, I already talked about Leonard Williams. I talked about Boye Mafe. Draymond Jones with 3. Derek Hall with 4. Mike Morris with 1. The interesting thing here that I think people are going to be into, though, Byron Murphy with 2. First ever NFL game. He gets in on the action. Witherspoon and Baker had 2 each. And those are the 2 guys who are obviously getting pressure on blitzes. And you can see that Baker was sent on 8 pass rushing opportunities and Witherspoon was sent on 7. Rayshon Jenkins had 1. Julian Love had 2. Dodson had 4. So there's going to be a lot of this as the season goes on. 29 total QB pressures according to PFF in this game. That's more than half of Bo Nix's dropbacks. Now, I don't think that PFF does a great job with their pressure stuff all the time, but the fact that this is even a conversation is still very impressive. Coverage numbers, you can see that no one really got lit up. The closest thing we got to a guy getting lit up would be Trey Brown, and that's because he gave up the one big play right before half, really. So he gave up 3 completions, 4 attempts. But other than that, man, it's like Julian Love gives up 23 yards on 6 targets. That's nothing. Like, I will take that happily. Tyrell Dodson gets targeted 8 times, 20 yards. That's remarkable. Witherspoon gives up 17 yards on 6 targets. Like, it's because of the way Bo Nix played for the most part, but you can just see that the efficiency for that Denver offense was completely putrid, completely non-existent. Very little yak. The only guy who gave up any real amount of yak was actually the Julian Love, where, again, Julian Love had an interception, so I'm going to forgive a little bit of the stuff he gave up, and 23 yards on 6 targets for a safety is really good. So no complaints here. Dodson is amazing in coverage in this game. That's 2.5 yards per target. Baker gets targeted twice, gives up 5 yards. So the coverage stuff is completely on point. Real quick, also, special teams grades, Derek Young leads the way. This is why I really felt like Derek Young needed to make the roster and why I felt like he would and why I feel like he needs to be here. He had 2 tackles on special teams. One was a really good one, 80.6 special teams grade. Also, shout out to Marquise Blair. Practice squad elevation had 78.7. And then you start going down the list here. You get down into the guys who are a little more anonymous. The only guy who was poorly graded on special teams was Kevon Wallace, and I guess Brady Russell missed a tackle. And, well, actually, Blair missed a tackle as well and was still graded out really well. Again, I think these are missed tackles that didn't have a big impact. I don't think they really mattered that much. I don't think they caused any big yak or yards after the initial tackle opportunity. Yeah, so nothing huge to report in the special teams area, but I did want to highlight Derek Young real quick. And that'll do it. That's it for our PFF review. We're going to look at PFF a little bit more later this week, probably, but that is it for this video. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Probably another video later today if we get updates. But for now, go Hawks. And if you don't see me again today, I'll see you again tomorrow, maybe tonight on Twitch, whatever you want. See you guys later. Go Hawks.